you can draw this in Procreate. During this easy Procreate tutorial, I will guide you through all the steps of creating this awesome lettering illustration. This is a very special collaboration You Can Draw This episode, and it is made possible by my friends at Shoutbam. They create awesome lettering pieces and awesome lettering brushes. And especially for Flocreators, they made this special sample brush pack. And they also made this design for this tutorial. Now you can get those special Shoutbam brushes by going to freefromflow.com. These special brushes will make it super easy to create these letters with a 3D effect. After that, we'll be adding loads of texture and special light effects. I'm sure that once you have reached the end of this special tutorial that you will feel super proud, and it will be great if you go ahead and share your work. If you share your work, don't forget to tag me in the image, not just in the description, and also tag Shoutbam because I'm sure they will want to see your work too. And then if you have tagged us, then perhaps we'll see your work in the next tutorial, just like these amazing results from my friends at Patreon. You probably already know that that is the place to go if you have a Procreate tutorial addiction, because there I have more than 100 other tutorials ranging from beginner levels to more advanced levels. Now for this tutorial, we're working on a canvas that is 2300 pixels by 3000 pixels, and the color profile is set to sRGB. Don't forget to go to freefromflow.com to get the free brushes, and I have also linked a color palette in the description. So if you are ready, let's get started. We'll start off by creating our letters. Let's go to the special brush pack and then go and grab this basic shape over here on which we will create our letters. Now for the color, you can just go for a dark gray, doesn't really matter. I can keep the opacity of this brush at 100% and set the size to 30%, and then just tap on your screen to drop in your first box. Now on this box, we are going to add a few guidelines. So we are going to add a new layer on top of this layer by tapping the plus. And then for our brush, let's go to the treasure chest brush pack and grab the fine liner brush. For this brush, I have the opacity set to 100% and the size at 6%. And let's first make a line that starts here. Follow that dashed line over here. Tap one finger on the screen to make sure that it's perfectly horizontal. And then we'll make another line a little bit higher. Again, hold your pen in place and tap one finger on the screen to make sure that it's perfectly horizontal. And now once you have these two lines, let's go to the layer menu, slide to the left on the layer and tap duplicate. Then we'll go to the move and transform tool, the little arrow here. Then we'll set it to uniform. And we'll also turn on magnetics here. So we can drag this up and we can place it about here. Now let's go to the layer menu and pinch these two together. Then we'll tap the plus for another layer. And this time we'll make a vertical line. And it's a little bit to the left, no, the right of this little dashed line. And then we'll go all the way down. Hold your pen in place and tap one finger on the screen like this. And then we'll make another one over here. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen like this. So this little band, these two lines are in the center of the front of this block. Now that we have these lines, let's pinch them together. We can actually pinch them together with the entire block. So pinch it all and let's lower the opacity just a little bit. Let's set it to 60%. And the reason we have created these lines is so we can use them as guides and make sure that our letters will match. That way we will make sure that they have the same thickness. Now we are going to duplicate this block so we have different blocks for our different letters. So let's go to the layer menu again, slide to the left, tap duplicate, then go to the move and transform tool. And move this one to the right. Then we'll go back to this layer and duplicate it again by sliding to the left, tapping duplicate, then go to the move and transform tool and slide this one down. And next we will make new layers on which we will create the letters. You can actually pinch these together if you like. They can all be on one layer. Then we'll tap the plus for a new layer and then we can get started creating our first letter. Let's zoom in a little bit. We are going to start with the E and we can stick with our fine liner brush. Let's start here on the side. We'll follow our block, Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen for a perfectly vertical line. Then we'll follow this line all the way to the other end. And we'll go for the top here. And each time, hold your pen in place and hold one finger on the screen for a perfectly vertical or horizontal line. Then we'll go down to that line over here. Tap one finger on the screen. Then we'll move to the left. And we'll almost go to that left line. I hope you can see it. So to about here. Then we'll go downward like this to that line over here. Then we'll go to the right. Again, hold your pen in place. Hold one finger on the screen. Then over here. So now we have the top part and the bottom part of the E. Now let's create this area. And this one, I want it to be a bit shorter than the top one and the bottom one. So we'll go to about, well, let's say to about here. Then move down. Make sure it's perfectly vertical and then back to the left like this. So now we have our E. Let's move on to the D. Let's place that over here. We'll make a new layer to place our D on. Don't forget the step. Tap the plus. And then for our D, we'll start over here with a vertical line. Hold it in place. Tap one finger on the screen. And we'll make a line over here. Again, hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen, and then we'll make a line over here a bit further than that left line. And we'll do the same over here. And then we are going to create that curve for our D. And I like to rotate my canvas. That makes it easier to create that movement. And we'll go like this. We'll go through this line and then we'll go all the way to here. And you can go outside of that line, of that box a little bit. And then we'll go to here and connecting this part. And we'll do the same for the inside. And try to make it mirror. So first we'll start here and then we'll have a little opening over here. And over here as well. So try to get that same negative space here. So it'll look a bit like this. And of course you can tap and hold the eraser to make your eraser switch to the fine liner. And then you can simply use that eraser to make your line art a little bit more tidy if it's necessary. I think this looks like a pretty good D. Then let's move on to our G. Again, we need to make a new layer, so let's tap the plus and let's grab the brush. And the G is probably the most challenging of these letters, so don't worry if you need a couple of tries. Let's first start by creating a line over here. Hold your pen in place and tap one finger on the screen. Then we'll go to about here. Make a little upward thingy. And that'll be the start of our curve. Then over here, we'll make a line like this. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen. Now let's start creating our curve. We'll start here. And then over here, we'll curve to this little intersection. And then we'll go outside of the box just a little bit until we are here for that intersection. And then we'll curve to the top here. And then we'll curve through the box a little bit to about here. Then let's go downward. And this line is actually way too high. I want it to be about here. So let's make a new line, hold your pen in place, make it a little bit thicker. And we can simply grab the eraser and get rid of this one. Now let's grab the brush again. And then we need a curve. Let's first make a line downward here to about here. Then we'll go to the right. And then we are going to make a curve to this area. We'll curve in this direction, then we'll go through these lines. Perhaps we can extend this curve a little bit. This is like the sketching phase for our letters. So don't worry, they don't have to look perfect in one go. Actually, they don't have to look perfect at all. Let me grab the eraser, get rid of this. Now let's zoom out and check all our letters. Now at this point, you can adjust your letters a little bit more. For instance, I want this top part to be a little bit thicker for our G. So let's adjust that curve a little bit. And also make it a little bit higher. Give it a little bit more weight so that it matches the other letters. So you can grab your eraser, get rid of this line and this one. So now it has a bit more weight, and I also want to add some extras to these letters before we start manipulating them. So first let's turn off our boxes, and then let's start with the E. Let's go there, let's actually erase this part. So we have a neat looking E. And then on a new layer, I want to add some extra here. Let's tap the plus, make a new layer just to be sure. And I want to add like a thick open outline. So let's start here and grab the brush. So let's start about here, make a vertical line, and then we will create this sort of open outline. Keep the distance equal overall. Here you can make an upward line so you'll be sure that the thickness is the same. Then over here, go up. Then for this top one, we can actually extend this one. That way you're sure that the thickness is the same. And then over here, hold your pen in place. You can use the eraser to get rid of any parts that you don't need, like this line and this one. I want to do something similar for the D. Now for this E, we can actually merge these two together. Once you're happy with your inside E, you can pinch them like this. Then we'll go to the D, tap the plus for a new layer, and then we will make a smaller D inside. So let's just start here. And first, again, grab the brush. I keep forgetting. Let's make a line like this. Hold your pen in place. And then we'll just turn our canvas and then make a smaller D like this. I think it looks pretty good, so we can actually pinch these together, these two layers. And then we'll continue working on the G. Let's tap the plus here as well for a new layer. And we are going to make an extra G on the inside, but it's a little bit thinner. First, let's start over here and make a line like this. And then we'll go downward here. Make a line over here. And then we'll move downward. So it's a lot thinner than the original G, like the OG. Then we'll curve around all the way to the top. We'll curve like this, and then we'll make another curve from this corner. That way we will have that same, well, approximate thickness. So loop around to about here. So we have a nice thin looking G on the inside of our bigger G. Then grab the eraser to get rid of these lines here. So make it nice and tidy. And then we actually have all the letters we need. Let's pinch these together too. So now we have a layer for a G, a D, and an E. And we actually don't need those boxes anymore. Let's remove that layer by sliding to the left and tapping delete. For the next step, we are going to create the composition of our letters. Now let's first turn off these letter layers like this. Then we'll make a new layer on top. So first tap layer 4, then tap the plus. And then in the special brush pack, in the Shoutbam brush pack, let's grab this first E-box brush, which is like a stamp. Now the opacity needs to be at 100%, and let's set the size to 25%. Then let's zoom out a little bit, and then we'll place this box over here. Now I want it to be nicely centered, so let's go to the move and transform tool, the little arrow, and place it in the center. Let me turn off magnetics here. Actually, we can turn on snapping to place it in the center. And now let's make a new layer, and we'll do that on top of this one. So let's tap the plus. And then for the next brush or the next stamp, we will grab the D box. And again, the opacity needs to be at 100% and the size will be at 25%. Then let's tap on the screen again. And then we'll go to the move and transform tool, the little arrow, and we will flip this box horizontal. And then we'll use this green handle to rotate it a bit and make it cover that other box. So it'll look a bit like this. And if you want the placement to be the same as my placement, check out where this line is intersecting over here and in this area. Try to look at the intersections and then you'll know how to place your box. Then tap the arrow. And we're going to place our next box. Let's go tap the plus in the layer menu and grab the next brush, the G box. Again, the opacity is at 100% and the size needs to be at 25. And then let's tap on the screen again. Then go to the move and transform tool and use flip vertical here at the bottom. And then use this green handle to rotate it like this. Then tap the arrow again, make a new layer on top of this one by tapping the plus, and then go for the next brush, the next stamp, which is the second E box. The opacity is at 100% and the size at 25% like this. And then tap on the screen, then go to the move and transform tool again, use flip vertical, and then move it downward until you are about here. And then tap the arrow again. So now you have these boxes. They do take up quite a lot of space, so let's make them a little bit smaller. Let's select all of these boxes like this. So that's the top 4 layers. Then go to the Move and Transform tool. Make sure it's set to uniform. And then make it a little bit smaller. And place it in the center. And then tap the arrow again to get out of that menu. For the next step, we are going to place our letters, the letters that we have just created, we are going to place them inside of these boxes. So let's go to the layer menu. And let's start with our top E box. That's layer 4 here. Let's tap and hold it to make sure that we only see that box. Then let's grab an E. We have an E over here. Let's duplicate this layer by sliding to the left and tapping duplicate. Then we'll move this layer on top of our box layer. Now let's turn it on. And now we need to make a duplicate again. So slide to the left, tap duplicate. So now we have 2 E layers on top of our box layer. Let's turn the bottom one off for now. And now let's go to the Move and Transform tool for the top E. So we'll go to the arrow. And then let's move our E over here. Let's zoom in a little bit. And then over here, well, first let's turn off snapping. We don't need that. And then over here, set it to distort. And now we will use these corners and align them with the corners of our box. So for each corner, grab it and align it with the box. Then we'll do the same thing for the other E. So let's go to the layer menu, tap the bottom E and turn it on. Then go to the Move and Transform tool. Place that E in this area. And now we are going to focus on the other side of the box. And align this E with those other corners. So make sure that each little blue circle is in a corner. Then let's go to the layer menu, tap the N for this E in the back and lower the opacity a little bit. Let's set it to 45% for instance. Then let's make a new layer on top of these 2 E's by tapping the plus. And now we are going to create a 3D shape out of this. First, let's grab our fine liner brush again from the treasure chest brush pack. And now let's start with the outside. Let's go along the box and make a shape like this. And then we'll go over here and we'll attach this corner over here to the same corner of the other E. So start here and connect it over there. And then you can grab the eraser and get rid of this part. Then we'll go to the brush again and do the same for this one. So we'll connect it to the same corner over there. Then grab the eraser and get rid of this area. I also want to create some depth for that outer edge. Let's grab the brush and let's connect this corner to this one over here. So you need to connect it to the same corner on the other E. And we'll do the same for this corner. You just need to find the same corner in the other E. Then over here. And for this one, make sure you don't miss any. So for each corner, except for this one, for instance, because you just won't see it. And you won't see this one either. But we will see this one. Now I want to add some thickness here. Let's start by creating a line over here to that corner. And then we'll go in this direction. Then we'll do the same over here. We'll make a line like this. Let's go all the way down so we will have the same thickness over here. And for this one, we can actually go down as well to the bottom one here. But not for this one. Here we need a bit more thickness. And then from this area, we'll go all the way over here like this. Now we need to erase some parts, so pay attention. Let's grab the eraser and first we'll erase this one all the way to the corner to this corner. So now we have that thickness over here. We can erase this and this. Then over here, we can erase this line and this one. And over here. We can erase this and this line all the way to here, this one on the inside, and this. So this is what you are left with. And don't worry if you need to pause the video or take a screenshot here. So this is what your E approximately will look like. Now at this point, we can actually turn off the bottom E. Check what that looks like. Now we have a nice 3D looking E. And actually, once you have this, you can erase or remove that bottom E. Let's slide to the left, tap delete. So now we have our E. Let's move on to our D. Let's turn on the box. We have it over here, layer 5. And then let's grab the D. Let's turn it on. Let's place it on top of the box. And then let's duplicate it because again, we need 2 letters. So slide to the left, tap duplicate, then turn off the bottom one and then go to the move and transform tool. And then for this one, we need to align it with these corners. Just like this. So just align those blue little circles with the corners. Then we'll do the same for the bottom D. Let's turn it on. Tap that layer and then go to the move and transform tool. Let's first go to uniform here and make it a little bit smaller. And then go to distort. You might need to zoom in a little bit and align this with the corners as well. Then tap the arrow. And then again, let's make a layer on top of our D layers. Let's tap the plus, grab our brush, and then let's connect these corners like this. And then we'll follow the shape of the D. And then over here, it needs to connect as well. So just like with the E, we're connecting this part of the D to the same area on the other D. Now at this point, we can turn off the bottom D. Let's see, that looks nice and 3D. And to make our sketch look more readable, we can actually merge these 2 D layers together and we can grab the eraser and erase this part, which is covered by our E. Then let's zoom out a little bit and let's move on to our G. Let's turn on this layer and let's actually remove this D layer to keep things organized. Let's remove that. So we have our G box. We need our G. Let's turn it on. Grab that layer by tapping and holding and putting it on top of our box layer. And then we need to duplicate it again. So slide to the left, tap duplicate, turn the bottom one off and go to the move and transform tool. And then while using distort, we're going to align it with these corners. Then we need to do the same for the other G. So go to the bottom one, turn it on, tap the move and transform tool, and then make this one align with these corners. Just drag them. I think this looks good. Then let's go to that bottom G layer, tap the N and lower the opacity a little bit. I'll set it to 40%. Then make a new layer on top of the 2 G's by tapping the plus, and then we will connect these 2 shapes again. Let's start over here by connecting this corner, by grabbing the brush, by connecting this corner to that one, and this one to that one. We can follow this line. And then over here, we need to connect this to that area. We need to follow this line. Then over here, we have this corner that connects to that. Let's connect these and these corners. Then we'll go down here and connect these. Then we have this line. And this one we can erase. Let's grab the eraser, get rid of this. And now we have a nice 3D looking shape. Let's turn off that bottom G over here to check it out. I think that looks good. We can actually tidy it up by getting rid of that little line because it's behind the D. Let's grab the eraser and erase this little part. And now we can move on to our other E. Let's turn on that box and we can actually remove this G. Let's delete that. Then grab the last E. Let's turn it on, tap and hold that layer and move it all the way to the top and duplicate it once. So slide to the left and tap duplicate. Then we'll turn off the bottom one and then we'll go to the move and transform tool so we can place this E on this last box. Let's align the corners. Like this. Then we'll grab the other E. So turn this one on and select it. Go to the move and transform tool. It's all the way up here. Let's first set it to uniform. Make it a little bit smaller. Then set it to distort. Let's zoom in a little bit and align these corners. And this one. And go back to the layer and lower the opacity a little bit. Let's tap the N and set it to 40. Then we'll make a new layer on top by tapping the plus, and then let's add that 3D effect. First, let's grab the brush. Then let's connect these corners. And this one, this E is behind the G, so we only have to follow these lines. We don't have to go through the G. And now let's get to attaching all these corners. We are also going to add some depth again, so let's also attach this area to that, this one to that. Just connect all of them that are visible in any case. This one, make sure you connect it to the right one. And this way you can make all sorts of 3D letters. This one, and this. That's all of them actually, but it did get kind of messy here. So let's grab the eraser and let's erase this first because it's going all the way through here. Then this one, that will stop over here. So we can erase this line. This one will stop over here. This one will stop here. So we can erase the rest here. And this one will stop here. And then for these, they will stop over here. And then we have these. Oh, I accidentally also erased that. We don't want that. Let's make this line again. But I don't want the letter to be this deep. Let's make it about this depth. Let's make a line like this to decide on that depth. Then we'll connect this and we'll go upward here. Then we also have that depth here at the bottom. Let's make a line like this. And over here, like this. And again, we need to erase some parts. So let's grab the eraser again. We're going to erase from this corner. And over here. I almost forgot we have a part here. And now your E will look like this. So again, don't worry if you need to pause the video. Maybe you want to take a screenshot. I want you to have all these letters. It's time to continue and to start adding color. But before we do that, let's remove all those boxes and merge these layers. First, we need to remove this bottom E. We don't need that. So we can delete that layer. And we can merge these two E layers. And here we have that box. We can get rid of that. So delete it by sliding to the left and tapping delete. We can merge these two G layers. Then we have that box. That can be deleted. Then over here we have the D box. We can delete that too. We can merge these two E layers and delete the box for our E. So now we have 4 layers with our 4 letters. Now, actually, before we start coloring, it would be nice to add even more interest to our composition. So we can sketch out some more stuff, and we will do that on a separate layer. Let's make a layer on top of the others. So let's tap layer 2 here, then tap the plus. And then let's grab our brush. And for instance, it would be nice to have some sort of like bounding box. Let's make a line like this. Hold your pen in place. Tap one finger on the screen. Then we'll go downward. It'll create a nice frame. Then back to the left. And then back up. Hold your pen in place. It's not entirely connected, so let's do that. And to make sure that this is centered, let's go to the Move and Transform tool. Go to Snapping and turn on Snapping. Now when you move it around, you will find those orange lines, and then you'll know that it's in the exact center of your canvas. Then you can tap the arrow again. Now let's grab the eraser and erase this part, for instance, that is going through the E, and this part as well. Then let's sketch out some other stuff. Let's do that on a new layer again, just to be sure. Let's tap the plus, then let's grab the brush, and we will make a swooping shape through our composition. That'll give a nice flow to this piece. Let's start here, and we'll make a line like this, like a snake almost. And it'll be thin here. And it'll go behind our D, then curve over here. Or to go downward a little bit over here, go across the E like this. And for some extra shapes, let's add some geometrical shapes like this block over here. And maybe something like a cylinder shape, and maybe some wiggles, almost like paint. Over here, we'll add a circular shape. And here another wiggle. And maybe we can, and let's add some of these cone shapes. Now let's also add one over here. We're nicely filling our space. You can see that the sketch is very messy. That's totally fine. Let's add a little rounded cross here. Looks a bit like a band-aid. Now that you have this, you can actually make it a little bit more tidy. The way I usually do that is by lowering the opacity of the sketch layer and then tapping the plus to make a new layer. And on that new layer, you can make a more tidy line art, more tidy sketch to make it easier in the coloring phase. So that should look something like this. In case you're having trouble creating these kind of shapes, Shoutbam actually has some great brush packs with ready-to-go shapes. So you can totally go wild and experiment with lots of shapes. Now that we have decided on our composition, now that we have added all these elements, it's really time to add all the colors. And let's get started by adding a color to our background. So let's go and create a layer by tapping the plus and let's drag it underneath all the others. And then for our color, we will grab this one over here. That's the fourth color in the third row. Let's drag it onto our canvas. And now let's make a new layer on top by tapping the plus. And then for our color, let's grab this one over here. That's the second color in the third row. Then go to the selection tool, the S shape ribbon, set it to rectangle. Then use color fill. Let's zoom out a little bit and let's create that rectangular shape. Then I want to make sure that our rectangle is centered. So let's go to the move and transform tool, the little arrow. Make sure that snapping is turned on. And then let's move it around until you see those yellow lines. Well, I'll be content with the blue lines. Then tap the arrow again. Then let's go to the layer menu, tap the layer with the rectangle, and then use select. Let's turn off color fill. Then we'll go to our layer menu, tap the plus for a new layer, and let's delete our first layer with the rectangle. Then let's go back to the selection tool by tapping and holding it. Then we'll use invert, and then we'll turn on color fill again. And now we have that color on the outside and we're still sure that that opening is in the exact center of our canvas. Then let's tap the S shape ribbon again and then let's get started coloring our letters. First, let's turn off the sketch layers with the extra shapes here at the top. And we can actually remove that one with the rectangle. Let's just delete this one. So now we just have our sketch with these shapes and we have our letters. Now we can actually merge the sketch layers of our letters. Let's pinch them together and lower the opacity by tapping the N and sliding to the left. Let's set it to 50%. And then let's tap the plus for a new layer and drag it underneath the sketch. And let's get started with our top E. And then let's get started by just creating the overall outline. For our brush, let's go to the illustration brushes. Well, not the illustration, the calligraphy brushes, and use the monoline brush. And for our color, let's grab this one. That's the fourth color in the second row. And let's make the brush nice and small. Let's set it to 2%. So it's nice and thin. And then let's start following the outlines. So just hold your pen in place each time to create these straight lines until you have followed the entire shape. And over here, it's okay if your line is a little bit longer. Over here, you can make a line like this. Try to be precise here. Until you have a closed shape, then you can drag in a color to fill the shape. And then to make some of these parts, the edges more crisp, you can tap and hold the eraser so that your eraser is now also set to the monoline brush. And you can make it a little bit smaller, maybe 10%. And then you can go along these edges and then make sure that you get those nice pointy corners. And also with your eraser, you can hold your pen in place to make it snap to the quick shape or the quick line. And then just make sure that you get nice crisp edges. Then for this one, I think we have some pretty nice corners right now. Next, we will make this outer edge shape. Let's do that on a new layer. Let's tap the plus, and then for the color, we will grab this one over here. That's the 5th color in the 2nd row. And then to make sure that we stay inside the shape of that big E, let's tap that layer over here. Then let's use select, turn off color fill, and then go back to that new layer that you have just created. Then with the brush, we can create our shape. And we can create this line. We don't have to worry about the outer edges. Because we can't paint or draw where we have an active, or where we don't have a selection. We can only draw inside of our selection. So that's super handy. All the way to here. And then all the way to the top. Now we also need to add a line over here, because we don't want our paint to spill over here. So we'll do the same here. And once you have that, you can drag in the color and fill all these areas. And of course, again, you can grab the eraser, you can make these corners a bit more crisp by using the eraser and holding it down to create that quick line. Now we'll make another layer underneath this one. So first we'll tap this layer, then we'll tap the plus. Then for our color, let's grab this one, 3rd color in the 2nd row. And let's create this line, this shape over here. Here we'll go down. Then loop around here to close that shape and then drag in the color. Now to make sure we clearly see the shape, we can actually lower the opacity of the sketch a little bit more. Let's go for 20%. Now we just want separate layers for that inside here and for these areas. So let's go ahead and create a new layer underneath this one. So first tap layer 5, then tap the plus. Then let's grab an even darker color. Let's grab this one over here, 2nd color in the 2nd row. And let's just make a shape that follows that E roughly all the way back here, and then we can drag in the color. Now you can see that we have some untidy spots, especially on this layer over here. Let's grab the eraser, and for instance we want this to touch that corner. Let's make the brush a bit smaller, 1%. And make those corners touch. And you can switch back to the brush with this color to make this a bit more crisp. And of course you can also tab line here at the top to move your line around, your erasing line. I also want to grab the brush to tidy this a little bit. Make this go upward a little bit. Then over here, we need to tidy this up. This way you can go along all the corners to tidy things up. And finally, let's make a layer for these areas. Let's put that on a layer on top of this one. So let's tap the plus, and then for the color, let's just grab this one, the third color in the second row. Well, let's just loop around here and over here, and then drag in the color to fill these areas. Then we can turn off the selection by tapping the S shape ribbon. Now we have our E, and it already looks a little bit 3D actually. Now to keep things organized, let's group our E layers. So let's start with the top one, or actually with our sketch. So let's start with the top one, select all of these like this, and then tap group. You can close the group, and you can actually rename it like this, and let's call it E. Now let's make a layer underneath this one. Let's tap the plus for a new layer, and then for our color, let's grab this one over here. That's the 7th color in the first row. And on this layer, we will create that D. Let's start over here, make a line like this, and then we need to create that curve. Here we can just go behind that E. Just make sure that your shape will eventually be closed. And also don't worry if you need multiple tries to create this curve. It takes practice to get a steady hand. You can see that I wobble a little bit as well. So something like this. Then let's make a line over here and create that curve here. I'll rotate my canvas again to make it easier to create this curve. There. Then we can drag in a color. Then for that shape on the inside, we'll make another layer on top of this one. So we'll tap the plus. And then for the color, we will grab this one. That's the 8th color in the first row. And to make sure that we don't go over that inner edge, we'll tap this layer. We'll use select. And then we'll go back to that new layer. So now we can't paint here, just wherever there is a selection. Let's first make a line like this. And then let's create that curve. There. Then we can drag in the color. And of course, in this case too, you can just grab the eraser and make it a bit more crisp. Make sure that you don't have a little wobble here. You can do the same for the big D. Let's check it out actually. Let's go to this layer, turn off the selection, and check that corner. Well, it's actually already pretty crisp. We can grab the eraser, maybe make it a bit more crisp here. And then let's move on to that other part. We can put that on one layer underneath the other. So first tap this one and tap the plus. And then for the color, let's grab this one over here. That's the 9th color in the first row. Then let's start here and then loop like this. So we'll create a closed shape so we can see our line. Make a line over here. And then we will need to curve it here. That's a tricky part. Again, no worries if you need multiple tries. And there's always the undo option. Then a straight line over here. We can just use the quick line. You can also use edit here at the top. Make sure that it nicely connects. And tap the brush. Then make sure you close your shape. Let's start here and loop around like this. I think it's closed, and then drag in the color. Now we have our D. Again, let's keep things organized. Let's select these layers and then use group, close it, and let's name this group D. Tap enter, and then let's move on to the G. First select this layer, then tap the plus for a new layer on top. And then for our color, let's grab this one, 5th color in the 2nd row, and let's start with our main G shape. So let's start here with these straight lines. That's the easy part. Just use the quick line. And then we are going to curve. Start here. Trying in one go here. It's still a little bit wobbly. But sometimes it can be easier to just make one big motion. Then over here we'll go up. And then we need that big curve. That's even harder. Of course, you can use the quick shape here as well to make a nice curve, but sometimes, well, for me at least, that makes things even harder. Or sometimes the curve just isn't what you want it to look like. Almost there. Maybe one more time. I think this looks pretty good. Let's drag in a color, then grab the eraser. Let's make this a bit more tidy, nice and pointy. Maybe use edit. Yeah, then again, grab the eraser for this part. And over here. And this bottom part looks a little bit rounded. There. Now let's create separate layers for these areas. We can make a layer for these sides and this inside, and a layer for the top parts here. So let's make a layer underneath this one. Let's tap this one and tap the plus. Then for the color, let's go a bit darker. Let's grab this one, 4th color in the 2nd row. And let's start over here. Let's hold our pen in place and use edit here to make sure it nicely aligns. I think like this, and tap the brush. Then let's make sure we create a closed shape. Drag in the color, a little gap here. I do see a little part sticking out here, so I'll grab the eraser and get rid of that. And make this a bit more tidy. Then for this top part, we'll grab the brush again. Make a line like this. Go to this corner and then to here, then drag in a color, grab the eraser and tidy it up. Let's do the same over here. We have a little part sticking out. Now it actually, first I wanted to put this, this, and this on one layer, but it actually doesn't make sense completely because this part, it's logical if it's on top of this area. And for this area, it would be more logical to put it underneath there. So let's just make 2 layers for these areas. So let's first make a layer on top of it. Let's tap the plus. Then for the color, let's grab this one, 3rd color in the 2nd row. And then let's start here. Then go upward. Then over here. It's not super tidy, but we can use the eraser. Let's go here. Let's actually let's tap this layer where we have this shape. Let's tap it, use select. Then we'll go back to this new layer and grab the eraser. And now we can only erase on that shape. So we can create a nice crisp edge. Then turn off the selection. Let's also go along this edge. Let's use edit here at the top to make it nice and tidy. And then over here, let's grab the eraser again for a nice crisp edge here. Then tap the brush. Then let's go for this area. Now that I think of it, it's actually more logical to have this on a separate layer and then have this one and this one underneath this one, because then I don't have to worry about going over this area. So let's make a layer underneath this one. So first we'll tap this, then we'll tap the plus, and then let's first just make a shape here. Make sure to close it, then drag in a color. And then for the side, let's make a line like this, and then upward, and then back here. Make sure to close it. Make sure that your line touches here. Then drag in the color. Then grab the eraser to create a crisp looking edge. Use edit. There. Let's grab the eraser again for this little part. And then over here. Use edit. And grab the eraser and get rid of this little thingy. And then all we need for our G is our smaller G. Now for that G, we are going to use this color. That's the 7th color in the first row. We'll put it on a layer on top of the other G layers. So tap the plus. And then by using the techniques I've just shown, color this in with purple like this. Then let's also give a little 3D effect to this smaller G. We'll do that by duplicating this G layer by sliding to the left and tapping duplicate. Then we'll go to the bottom one and grab this darker color, that 9th color in the first row, and drag it onto the shape. And now when you go to your layer menu, you'll see that that layer is darker. Then we'll go to the move and transform tool, the little arrow, and then we'll move this upward and to the right a little bit. Let's turn off snapping actually. Let's zoom in a little bit. So we'll move it just a little bit like this. Then we'll go back to the layer with the dark G, use our monoline brush, and then we will connect this little corner. And over here we'll connect this corner. And we have another one over here. So now it has a little bit of a 3D effect. Now let's go to the layer menu, select all the G layers like this, then use group, close the group, and call this G. Then for our final letter, let's create a layer underneath this one, tap the plus, and then for our color, we will grab this one over here. That's the 3rd color in the first row. And then just like with our first E, first thing we'll do is create our entire outline. So just follow the same steps as with the first E until you have this. Then we'll grab another color. We'll grab this color over here, 5th color in the 2nd row, and make a new layer on top of this one. So we'll tap the plus, and then we will create that outline again. And just like before with the first E, you can use the selection tool again to make things easier. So first go to this E, tap that layer, then use select, and then go to your new layer, draw the outline until you have this. Then let's go for the inside. Let's make a new layer underneath this one. So first we'll tap this one, then we'll tap the plus, and then for the color, let's grab this one. That's the 5th color in the 3rd row. And then again, use all the techniques until you have this. Then let's create a layer for both this side and those top parts. So let's make a new layer by tapping the plus. And for the color, let's grab this one. 4th color. And then for instance, let's make a line like this. From corner to corner, you might need to use edit to make sure that it goes exactly from one corner to the other. Then tap the brush, go downward here, and then close that shape. Then we have these parts. You can just loop around, close the shape, and drag in the color. And for this one as well. Then the only thing we need is some color on the inside there. And we actually don't need our selection anymore, so let's tap the S shape ribbon. And then let's actually drag this layer underneath this orangey layer, because that'll make it easier. Now we can just loop around here like this, all the way like this, loop around, close the shape, and drag in the color. Now we have the flat colors for all of our letters. Let's group these E layers. Actually, let's slide to the right on all these layers, then use group, and let's call this one E2. Let's tap enter. We can turn off the sketch layer of our letters. And now let's turn on the other sketch layer so we can also lay down the flat colors for our shapes. Let's lower the opacity of that layer like this. And then let's tap the plus for a new layer. And we can place it on top of our layers. Let's tap and hold it, drag it on top. And let's start with our swooping yellow shape. Let's grab this color for that. That's the 8 color in the second row. And then we'll lay down the flat color for that shape. And what can actually be handy is just draw a shape like this. And then we'll go to the magic wand, use liquify. I have it set to push. Let's set the size to 80% or 81. Make sure distortion and momentum are set to none. And then you can simply push and pull that shape until it follows that curve of your sketch. So I guess something like this, maybe a little bit upward here and downward there. You can make your brush a little bit smaller if you need to adjust smaller areas. We push this. Then we can duplicate the shape. So let's slide to the left, tap duplicate. Then let's go to the move and transform tool and move this to the right. Then we can go back to the magic wand and use liquify again. Now we can push it so that it touches or almost touches the other part. And I made a mark there. Not sure what happened there, but we will remove that later. So now we get a nice shape like this. Then let's grab the eraser to get rid of this mark. Then let's merge these two layers by pinching them together. Grab the brush again so we can close the shape here. Then we can drag in the color. And now we have a nice swooping shape. I wanted to go behind the E and the D actually, and I actually also want to move it downward here a little bit. It's a bit too close to our G. So let's go back to the liquify tool and just push it a little bit here. I think that's better. Then to get rid of, or at least make it move behind our E and D, let's also push it a little bit here actually, so that it's not too close to that corner. And to do that, we need to go to our E layer. And I actually want to be able to select the entire E. So let's go to our full shape of our E. Let's tap that layer and use select. Then we will go back to our wiggly line, tap that layer and use clear. Now we just need to clear that D shape. Let's close this group. But for our D shape, we have these shapes on different layers. So to be able to select the entire D, let's duplicate this group for now. So slide to the left, tap duplicate, then tap this layer and use flatten. I don't want to flatten this D at this point, so we have this backup. We can just use this layer to make our selection. So tap this layer, use select, then go to the wiggly shape again, tap the layer and use clear. And now we can actually get rid of this D layer. So slide to the left and tap delete. Now let's fill the other shapes. Let's make a new layer. Let's do it on top of our wiggly line. Let's tap the plus and let's first grab this color over here, the 7th color in the first row, and let's use it for this shape. Now you can see that it's going outside of this edge over here, and I don't want that. Now to get rid of that area, we can simply select our border here, tap that layer, use select, then go back to our wiggly shape, grab the eraser, and get rid of this area. But I do want it to stick out here, so don't get rid of that. And tap the selection again, and then let's fill some more shapes. We can stick with this layer, but let's change our color. Let's grab this one, 3rd color in the first row, and let's use that for this shape. Again, you can use the selection technique, so go to the border layer, tap it, use select, then go back to this layer, grab the eraser, and get rid of this part. Now let's tap the selection tool again and grab a different color. Let's grab this one over here, 4th color in the 2nd row, and let's use it for this ball. Let's hold our pen in place to make it snap to the quick shape, and you can use ellipse here to edit it a little bit. Let's place it upward a little bit so it's not too close to our wiggly yellow line. Then drag in a color to fill it. And then let's switch our color to this one, 5th color in the 2nd row. Let's use it for this shape. Again, we'll hold our pen in place. For the quick shape, you can use edit here at the top to make it align with your sketch, and then drag in a color to fill it. And finally, let's also grab this color over here, 3rd color in the 1st row, and then create this shape. Hold your pen in place, and then drag in the color. Then let's create a new layer on top of this one. Let's tap the plus, and then for our color, let's grab, well, let's actually stick with this one. Then let's go to the selection tool, set it to rectangle, and use color fill. And over here, we'll make a little rectangle. Then we'll go to the move and transform tool. It's still set to distort, which is great. And now we can make it bit different, shape it like this, and then tap the arrow again. Then let's make a new layer underneath this one, or actually we can go for this layer, we can put it over here. Let's grab a different color, this one, 4th color in this 1st row, and then let's make a line like this. Use a line if you need to adjust it a little bit, then create another line. Connect these two and drag in the color. You can use the eraser to make it more tidy. And of course, we also need to select this border. So tap this layer, use select. Make sure you turn off color fill. Then go back to this layer, use the eraser, and get rid of this area. Then turn off the selection, and now let's make another layer underneath this one. So first tap this layer, then tap the plus. Then for a color, let's grab this one, 5th color in the 1st row. And then let's make this shape over here. Drag in the color. Then let's use the selection tool again on this frame layer, tap it, use select, then move up to this layer, and we can actually tap it and use clear because there's nothing else on this layer that we don't want to erase. Now on this layer, let's also add the shapes for these cones. For the color, let's grab this one, 4th color in the 1st row, and then let's use the quick shape or the quick line to create these lines. And you can use edit, of course, to make sure that it nicely aligns. Then make sure to close the shape, drag in a color, and if you need to, you can grab the eraser to tidy it up. Then let's also do it for this one. Let's grab another color. We'll grab this color over here, third color in the second row, and do the same thing over here. Make a line like this, and one over here. Use line here at the top to make sure it aligns, then tap the brush, close the shape, and drag in the color. Then we need a layer for this shape over here. Let's make a new layer on top of this one. So let's tap the plus, and then for the color, we'll grab this one over here. Fourth color in the third row. Then let's make our monoline 100% in size, and let's create a cross shape. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen like this, then another line, tap your finger on the screen, and then let's use the move and transform tool over here at the top to distort our little cross. And if you want it to curve a little bit, you can also set it to warp here and pull up the center area just a little bit. And I tap the arrow again. I think we can actually move it up a little bit. I followed this sketch right now, but I wanted to move up a little bit. Let's set it to uniform and then place it about here. And tap the arrow again, and now finally let's do this cylinder. We can stay on this layer and we can grab, let's grab this color over here. That's the 8th color in the second row. Let's grab the brush. Let's make it small again, like 2%. Then draw an oval. Use edit here at the top. And then make it follow your sketch and then drag in the color. Now we just need a layer underneath this one for the other shape. And I think we're safe if we put it on this layer. And for the color, let's grab this one over here. That's the 9th color in the second row. And then let's make a line like this. And another one over here. Don't worry about the G. You can use edit here at the top, make it a line. Maybe this one needs to be a little bit more to the left. Then close the shape, close it here at the top as well, and then drag in the color. Let me turn off the sketch layer for now to see if it's really tidy. Yes, it is. Now let's make sure we remove this part and make it look as if it's behind our G. So let's go to this G group, and we can actually select this layer over here. That's that shape. Let's tap it. Then use select, then we'll go back to, where is it? This layer. Then we can tap it and use clear. And then when we zoom out, we can see that it's nicely behind our G. Now all that is left to do is add texture and interest to our illustration. And to do that, we are going to make smart use of alpha lock and layer blending modes. And let's start with our framework here on layer 9. To make sure that we won't be painting outside of the shape, we are going to turn on alpha lock on this layer. So tap it, then turn on alpha lock. And then for our brush, we'll go back to our special Shoutbam brush back. There we have it. Then we'll move up and we will go to the small grain texturizer. And then for the color, let's go and grab this one. First color in the third row. Let's zoom out a little bit. The opacity of this brush is at 89%, and let's set the size to 40%. And let's go over this top area with these rounded motions. We'll add some brighter color there, just gently. Then let's make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's go for, let's say 10%, and go along the edge here, just outside of the edge. So we'll create this light effect here. Then let's switch to this color over here, 8 color in the first row. And let's make the brush a little bit bigger again. Let's set it to 40% again. And let's go over this lower area here. Just rounded motions for a subtle effect. And then let's make a new layer on top of this one. We'll tap the plus And then we'll tap this new layer and set it to clipping mask so that whatever we do here, it'll also only show up on that framework. Then we'll tap the N to change the layer blending mode of this layer, and we'll scroll up to multiply. So whatever we paint here, it'll show up darker. And then for the brush, we are going to use the wall texturizer. And for the color, let's grab this one over here, 10th color in the first row. Now the opacity of this brush is at 100% and the size is at 38. And now let's just go over our background again with rounded motions to add a subtle wall texture. If you lift your pen from your screen and then touch your screen again, it'll be a bit darker. So you can do this like twice and then get this nice effect. Now for the pinkish background here on layer 7, let's add some noise there as well. Let's grab this color over here, 3rd color in the 3rd row. And for the brush, let's use the Grainy Builder Rex. Now the opacity is at 100% and the size is at 10%. And let's just go over there and add some light spackles for some nice grain and interest there. Then let's also switch to this yellow over here. That's the 7th color in the 2nd row. And let's add that as well. Just some random texture. And perhaps we can also add some pinkish, well, some darker pink, like this 5th color in the 3rd row. Let's add some more texture. Let's actually grab the Grainy Builder Dax. The opacity is at 100% and the size is at 21. And let's go over the background and add just a few of these spackles. I actually hope you can see them on screen. Otherwise, just look at your own screen and have fun with this texture. And now that we have our background, let's move on to our letters. Now for the letters, let's get started with the top E. Let's go to that group on which we have the E. And then let's get started with the bottom layer. And we are going to turn on Alpha Lock for all of these layers. So let's tap them and then tap Alpha Lock. Or you can swipe to the right with 2 fingers to turn on Alpha Lock. And you can see that Alpha Lock is turned on by looking at these this checkerboard pattern. Now for our E, let's go and grab the small grain texturizer. And then for the color, let's start with this dark color, 2nd color in the 2nd row. And then let's make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's say 15%. Let's check it out. That looks fine. And let's make that left area a little bit darker. And I want the right area to be a bit lighter. So let's grab this color, 5th color in the 2nd row. And let's make that area a little bit lighter. Then let's even switch to this color, the 6th color in the 2nd row, to make it even lighter over here. Then let's add some extra spackles. Let's use the Grainy Builder Rex, and let's grab the 2nd color in the 2nd row. Now the opacity of this brush is at 100%. Let's set the size to 10. Now let's go over here and add a few of these spackles. You know what, let's zoom in a little bit. Now let's move on to, let's go for this layer over here. And let's keep using this dark blue. And for the brush, let's go back to the small grain texturizer with the size set to 12 or maybe, well, let's go for 10. Let's add a little bit of the dark texture here and here. Then we'll switch to this lighter blue, 5th color in the 2nd row, and add a little bit of that light to these ends. Then let's move on to this layer, layer 7. I want to add an interesting texture there. Let's tap the plus for a new layer, and then let's set that layer to clipping mask. And then for our brush, let's grab the Just Like Pollock brush. And for the color, we'll grab this 3rd color in the 1st row. The opacity of this brush is at 100% and the size is at 8. And let's just create a dab. Perhaps another one, just some interesting texture on our E. And you can actually go to the move and transform tool, the little arrow, set it to distort, and you can play around with the shape. Make them a bit longer, maybe a bit more thin. So you get something like this. Then tap the arrow again, and then once you're happy with your stroke, you can merge it with the E. So pinch it together, and then let's go ahead and add some texture. Let's go back to the Grainy Builder Rex, and let's grab this dark blue, second color in the second row, and add some texture here at the bottom. A little bit over here as well. Then let's switch to this light blue, fifth color in the second row, and add some lighter spackles as well. And then let's also switch to the small grain texturizer and add a little bit of light here. Then I also want to add some shadow. Let's grab this color, second color in the second row. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller, perhaps 4%. And let's go along these edges. Let's make the brush even smaller, 2. We'll go along these edges and add a tiny bit of grainy shadow over here as well. Just along these edges over here and some over here. Now let's move on to this layer. And for the brush, let's grab the drops brush for some more nice texture. Let's grab this color, third color in the second row. The opacity of this brush is at 100% and the size is at 21. And let's just add some random drops on this front side of our E. Then let's move to, well, back to the grain texturizer brush and this color over here, fifth color in the second row. Let's make the brush bigger again, 8%. Now let's add some light. Let's actually go even lighter. Let's grab this color, the sixth color in the second row. Some light over here, right on those edges. A little bit over here. And perhaps a little bit over here. Now let's move to this layer, this dark layer. We're going to use, well, the small grain texturizer again, and we'll switch to this color, fourth color in the second row. And over here, I want to create a crisp edge there. So let's grab the selection tool, the S shape ribbon, set it to freehand and make sure the color fill is turned off. And let's select this corner like this. Close the selection and then grab the brush and then go over here to add a little bit of light there. And turn off the selection. You can see that this looks really great. Let's also add a little bit over here. A little bit over here in that center, a little bit over here, and this area, and then over here we need another selection. So let's go to the selection tool, the S shape ribbon, go from corner to corner, loop around, close the selection, and go to the brush, add some light, then tap and hold the selection. And then use invert. So now this area is selected and we can paint there. So let's grab the brush and add some lighter shade here. And then turn off the selection by tapping the S shape ribbon. Next, we are going to add some highlights. Let's go to the brushes and use the rim light brush. And for the color, grab this color over here. Sixth color in the second row. And now for instance, over here, go along the edge. Now the opacity is at 100% and the size is at 4%. And with this brush, you can add these subtle highlights along those edges. Let's also grab this color, 5th color in the 2nd row, for one that's a bit more subtle over here. And over here. And then let's grab this blue, 3rd color in the 2nd row, for a little line over here. And one over here. And let's do the same on this layer, for instance, layer 6. Let's grab this color again, 6th color in the 2nd row. And let's go along the edges to add some shine. And over here. This one. This really adds a nice shiny touch. Of course, over here. So eventually you'll have something like this. Now let's move on to our D. Let's close this group and let's open our D group and let's turn on alpha lock here. So we'll tap these layers, turn on alpha lock, and let's start with our big one here. Let's first grab our small grain texturizer, and for the color, let's start with this one, 9th color in the 1st row. And for instance, let's go over this top area for a little bit of shadow. And a little bit over here, along that edge. Then let's grab a light color, this one over here, the 6th color in the 1st row. And let's add some light along this edge and over here. A little bit along this edge and this corner. And let's also grab the Grainy Builder Rex and a darker color. Let's grab this one again, the 9th color in the 1st row. And let's add some of these darker spackles for some nice extra texture. Let's also do this with the 6th color in the 1st row for some light spackles as well. And then let's grab that rim light brush again. And let's go along this edge for a nice light effect. And over here as well. And a little bit over here. And let's darken the shadow a bit more by going to the small grain texturizer and grabbing the darkest color, the 10th color here in the 1st row. And we'll go along this area close to that E. Then let's move to this D. Let's first grab this color, 9th color in the 1st row, for a little bit of shadow over here. And then we'll switch to this color, 6th color in the first row, for some light on this side. Then we'll switch to the Grainy Builder Rex, grab that dark color again, 9th color in the first row, and then add some dark spackles. And also some light spackles with the 6th color in the first row. Then we'll also grab the rim light brush again with the same color and add a little bit of light here. Then let's move back to the small grain texturizer, grab that dark color, that darkest color again, the 10th color in the first row, and add a little bit of more shadow here for our E. Then let's move to this layer, layer 13 here. We'll still use the small grain texturizer and this dark color. Let's add some shadow here and over here at the top and the bottom. I also want to add some light. Let's first grab this color, 7th color in the first row. Add a touch of light here along the middle. Then we'll grab the lightest color here, the 6th color in the first row, and add that light over here, and perhaps a little bit of light here. All right, now let's move on to our G. Let's go to the G group over here. Again, let's turn on alpha lock on all of these layers. You can simply swipe to the right, and then let's start on this layer over here. Layer 16, let's grab a dark color, the 2nd color in the 2nd row. And for the brush, we'll still use the small grain texturizer and add some shadow here at the top. And also over here. Then let's switch to this color, 5th color in the 2nd row, for some lighter touches. Over here as well. Then we'll switch to the Grainy Builder Rex, grab the dark color again, 2nd color in the 2nd row. Add some of that texture. Now let's switch to the 6th color in the 2nd row. Let's also grab the small grain texturizer again for some of that brightest light here on the corner and over here as well. I do see I went over this area a little bit. We want that to be darker. Let's grab the selection tool, the S shape ribbon. Select this area so we can only paint inside this area. And let's grab the dark color again, 2nd color in the 2nd row, then the brush, and then let's darken this. Then let's turn off the selection. Let's grab the rim light brush and let's grab that light color again, 6th color in the 2nd row. And let's add a nice edge. Of course, you can also do this at the end, just like with the first E, or you can do that while you work on the individual layers. Over here. And a little bit over here, just to make it stand out from that other area. Then let's move on to this layer, layer 17, that's this side. Let's just add a little bit of texture there by using the Grainy Builder Rex and this dark color, 2nd color in the 2nd row. Let's go over there, add some slight texture. Then let's grab the small grain texturizer and the 3rd color in the 2nd row. I want to make this a little bit more subtle. There. Then let's grab the rim light brush and let's go over this lower area. Then let's move on. Let's go to this layer, layer 18, for that inside and that side. Let's grab the small grain texturizer again. And then for the color, we'll grab the second color in the second row again. Let's go over here, add some shadow here as well, a little bit of dark texture. Then let's move to this color, fifth color in the second row. Add a little bit of light, a little bit over here as well along the edge. Then let's also grab this color, sixth color in the second row. For some brighter light, let's make the brush a little bit smaller, 3%. Some bright light. And then let's switch to the rim light brush. Add a little light edge here. And a little bit here. And for this edge, we can do that on the other G layer. Over here, I want to make the shadow a little bit darker actually. Let's go back to that layer over here. Let's grab the darkest blue, first color in the second row, and let's grab the small grain texturizer. Let's set the size to 8%, and let's go right here under that D for a darker shadow. Then let's move on to this layer, layer 15. Let's grab this color over here, sixth color in the second row. We still have the small grain texturizer. And let's add some light over here with rounded motions over here as well. Then let's switch to this color, third color in the second row, for some dark blue in this area. Then let's switch to the Grainy Builder Rex, and let's also use this for some spackles. And then we'll also switch to the sixth color in the second row for some lighter spackles, like over here and over here. Then we'll move back to the small grain texturizer and grab that dark blue again, second color in the second row, and make the brush a little bit smaller, let's say 3%, and we'll make a little shadow like underneath here, underneath that smaller G, and here on the outside along the G, and over here on the left and on the underside. And over here on the left, a little bit on the underside. So you're actually placing these on the opposite side of that dark purple area. Now let's also grab the rim light brush, and let's grab this blue, third color in the second row. And let's add a little bit of that rim light also over here. Over here, let's grab the lighter blue, sixth color in the second row, for a light over here, and perhaps a little bit over here. And then let's switch to that purple G. Let's start with this one, this top layer. Then let's first grab the small grain texturizer and this color over here, ninth color in the first row. Make the brush a little bit bigger again, 8%. Now let's start by darkening this just a little bit. And then we'll grab the lighter color, this one, sixth color in the first row, for a little bit of light over here and over here. Then we'll switch to the Grainy Builder Rex for some more spackles. And we'll also switch to that dark color, ninth color in the first row. We're switching a lot. And we'll add some darker spackles over here. Then let's move to the rim light brush. and grab the 6th color in the first row, and I'll add some of those rim lights like over here at the top, a little bit on the side, over here, and on this side. Then let's rotate a bit. Let's add some light right here on the inside. And then let's move to that dark area on this layer. First, let's grab the small grain texturizer again. And let's stick with this color, actually, this light color. And let's add a little bit over here where the light is hitting, because the light is hitting on the opposite side of this shadow here. That's also over here at the top, a little bit on the side, over here. And let's also create a nice crisp edge here. Let's grab the selection tool and make a selection over here. Or actually, I want to invert it. I want that to be selected. So let's tap invert and grab the brush and then add some light. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller. Go for 3%. Let's add a little bit of light here to that edge. Then let's do the same over here. Let's tap the S shib ribbon and then again select this area, then grab the brush and add a little bit of light. And then tap the S shib ribbon again. Now check that out. That looks great. Now hang in there. You're almost there. Let's work on the final E over here. Let's move to that group. Let's close this one, open our E2 group, and turn on alpha lock on all of these layers. So we'll slide to the right. And let's start on this layer. Layer 22 here. Let's grab the small grain texturizer. And for the color, you know what? Let's grab a purplish color. This 9th color in the first row. And let's go make the brush a little bit bigger. 9%. Go underneath here for some shadow there. Then let's also switch to this color, 2nd color in the first row. And add some light. Then let's move to the 10th color in the first row for some darker shadow. Let's set the brush size to 6% and add some shadow here. Then for some rim light, we'll grab the rim light brush and we'll grab this color over here. 1st color in the first row. And we'll add a little light over here. And also a little bit on this edge. Now let's move on to this side. Let's go to layer 25 here. And again, let's grab that purple 9th color in the first row. And let's add, not some rim light, but let's add texture with the small grain texturizer. Let's go along the underside. And let's also use the Grainy Builder Rex for some bigger spackles. And then back to the small grain texturizer and this color over here. 3rd color in the first row to add a little bit of light here. And a little bit over here. Then move on to this layer, the front side, that blue side. Let's grab this color, 4th color in the 2nd row. And then for the brush, we'll still use the small grain texturizer and add some texture here at the bottom and over here. Then we'll switch to the light color, 6th color in the 2nd row for some lighter blue. And let's also use the Grainy Builder Rex for some bigger spackles. And let's do the same with the darker blue, the 3rd color in the 2nd row. Then for some rim light, we'll grab the rim light brush and we will grab this color over here, 6th color in the 2nd row. And let's rotate a bit. Add some light on this edge. And here on the outside. Just like we did with our previous E. We have this edge. Then of course we also need to add some shadow here. I forgot that's also on this layer. Let's grab the small grain texturizer again and that dark purple, the 9th color in the 1st row. And let's go over here. And let's also use that even darker color. This one over here, 10th color in the 1st row. Let's go along the edge for an even darker shadow. And let's actually do the same over here. Then onto the inside, this layer over here. Let's add some spackles and some texture. Let's start with this color, 8th color in the 1st row. And the brush is still the small grain texturizer. And let's add some purplish color here. And let's also add some pinks with the 3rd color in the 1st row. So we'll create a nice looking gradient here. Then let's grab the Grainy Builder Rex and the purple. And let's grab this one over here, 9th color in the 1st row. And then we'll go over here at the top, adding a bunch of spackles. And then let's also switch to the small grain texturizer for a little bit of softer shadow here. So a little bit here, a little bit underneath here. I think this looks good. Now let's move on to this layer, layer 26. And here we will make use of the selection tool again. So let's move it a little bit. Let's grab the selection tool, the S shib ribbon, and make selections of these sides. We can also select this one. And over here. So we have all these sides. Then let's grab the brush. Let's set it to the small grain texturizer. And we have the correct color, that dark purple. Well, let's go over here and add some shadow. Right on these outside, these outer edges. Over here, it's gonna be nice and dark. Now let's tap and hold the S shib ribbon and use invert here at the bottom. And then we can grab the brush again and add some more texture. Over here, there will be some shadow, drop shadow, and over here. But there will also be some light. So let's also grab this color, the 6th color in the 1st row. And let's go over the edge, adding some light. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller, 2%, for some light here. And this edge. Perhaps a little bit here. And over here. And now let's tap the S shib ribbon again to get out of there. Now we just need a little bit of that rim light actually. Let's grab the rim light brush. Let's set it to this pink, 3rd color in the 1st row. And let's go along some of these edges. I think this looks good. Now we just need a little bit of shadow along the edges on this layer. Let's grab the small grain texturizer again, and let's grab this color over here, or maybe this one. Maybe this one's better. The 10th color in the first row. Let's check it out. The size is at 2%. And let's go just gently along the edges here. To make them stand out a little bit. Maybe switch to that red over there. The 5th color in the first row. So that it'll be a bit warmer here at the bottom. Now that you have textured all of these letters, let's do the same for the elements. You can use the same techniques as we used for the letters. Just turn on alpha lock for all of the layers and then start texturizing them. So turn on alpha lock or swipe to the right on these layers and then play around with the texture brushes until you have something like this. Now I have added texture to all of the elements. Now for this wavy line, I want to add a little extra. Let's go to the layer with that wavy line, then tap the plus for a new layer, then set that layer to clipping mask so that whatever we do here, it'll only show up on that shape. Then we'll tap the N and set this layer to screen to make everything that we draw here lighter on our shape. And it'll still show that texture and that shading. And for the brush, we will grab the Hipster Blast. And for the color, let's just use this yellow, this 8th color in the 2nd row. Now the opacity of this brush is at 85%. Let's set the size to perhaps 8. Let's check it out. I think that looks nice. Let's go over our shape and add this nice pattern to that wiggly line. Now you can make it a bit more subtle by going to the layer, tapping the S, and sliding to the left to, let's say, 60 or 61%. Now we just need some final touches. We need some shadow, for instance, on the background here. So let's go to that layer with that frame. Let's close this. Let's go here. Let's tap the plus for a new layer and set this layer to clipping mask as well. Then tap the N and set it to multiply. Then for our brush, let's use the small grain texturizer. And for the color, let's grab this one. 2nd color in the 3rd row. And then for instance, over here, you will see a little bit of shadow. And over here, right where it's going over that background. Over here as well. Underneath our E. So gently go over there and add a subtle shadow over here as well. And the bigger the shadow and the softer, the further away the object is from that background. So if you make the shadow very small and crisp, that means that this wiggly thing is closer to that frame. Let's also make a shadow here, right where that's going over that edge. And now we also need some shadow on some of the letters, like over here. So let's go to that letter layer, like E2. And if you're happy with your letter, you can merge your group at this point. If you're unsure, if you're happy, if you want to be able to change things later on, then I would suggest duplicating this first or duplicating your entire project. So you can duplicate the group and then flatten what you have here. And then we can turn this one off. And then once you have flattened your layer, you can tap the plus for a new one on top, set that to clipping mask, then tap the N and set this to multiply as well. And then for the color, let's go for this purple, 10th color in the 1st row. And now let's also make a shadow over here. And also over here for that cone shape. A little bit over here as that thing is moving over our E. And let's do something similar for this E. So we'll go to this group. And again, if you're sure about your E, you can merge these layers or you can duplicate them first and then merge that top layer. Then we'll make a new layer on top by tapping the plus, set that to clipping mask, then tap the N and scroll up to multiply. And then over here, we'll also make a shadow shape for that cone. And if you want to get more control, then you can just tap the M, lower the opacity a bit. I think this looks good. Oh, almost out of battery. We gotta hurry. There's just a final thing I would like to do, a final touch for our illustration, and we'll do that by merging everything together. Now, I always like keeping a backup so you can duplicate your entire project before you do this. And then once you have done so, you can start merging layers together until you have one layer with everything. We can lose these layers with the sketches. We can delete those. Now we have a new layer. Let's duplicate that. So tap duplicate. And then let's add a little chromatic aberration. So let's go to the magic wand, then to chromatic aberration. And then you can move your pen on your screen to turn up that chromatic aberration to about, let's say 10%. And then let's also add a little blur. So we'll go to the magic wand again, and then let's go to perspective blur. So here we have our center point, and let's slide to the right. And then the outer edges will get a little bit blurred. I want it to be very subtle, so let's go for 3%. And then tap the magic wand again. Now you can definitely play around with those settings. Experiment with them until you have the awesome looking result that you were looking for. I hope you have enjoyed following this special collaboration tutorial. Like I said before, don't forget to check out Shoutbam's website, subscribe for the newsletter to get even more free brushes, and go check them out here on YouTube. You're the best. Thank you so much for being here. Now, if you want to turn this into a streak, then why not watch this tutorial next? Again, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.